D-Money, welcome back, brother. It's just, a scheduled appearance at this point. It's just wash, rinse, repeat. And who knows, after we win this thing, we got to get you. I'm saying after we win, after y'all win this thing, we got to get you back on and fully encapsulate this season. But it's been a wild ride. It truly has. And I feel like I've seen you like every week for the last month and some change, which is great. I want to start off a little bit different here. And I know you're a astute media member and you walk that line fantastically. But I want to talk to Danny the fan, Danny the kid growing up watching these Canes and the fact that Miami is back in a national championship. How the heck are you feeling right now, man?
First of all, I got to thank you guys on behalf of Amon Richards, who was the former record holder for the freshman receiving record at University of Miami before Malachi Tony came along. We just did a show with him, and he said, thank them on behalf of Canes fans for being so loyal to the conference, to Miami, and representing so much during this period. So wanted to pass that along. But yeah,
Appreciate
as a
that.
fan,
Big dog.
it is it's unreal. When I was a kid, I went to the 91 championship, which is also a home championship. Miami's last home championship, actually. I was in the Orange Bowl against Nebraska, 22-0. I was like 6 or 7 years old, so I remember it, but I was a kid. And I thought that was going to be every year. They were in the championship the next year, lost to Alabama, and then probation hit. So there was a long drought until about 2000, 2001. And that felt like forever, right? Trying to climb back up. 2002, I was with my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife. It was our first date on a trip. We went to the Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State. Tough day for us there. And so past 23, 24 years, I've been, good on a personal level, got married, had kids, but maybe the Canes, not so good in that stretch. So we'll call it a push. But, it's been a long time, man, is the point. I was 17 when that happened. Now I'm 40. So I'm Mike Gundy age, so it's been a long, long stretch. And it really is. It's crazy. People talk about Miami as a blue blood program and as a one of the top programs now again, which obviously a fan, you believe that. But for some kids, Carson Beck was born a month before that Fiesta Bowl, and he's an old player. Malachi Tony wasn't even a thought. So it's been a very, very long time. And I am happiest for really two generations, which is the young kids, my kids that are 10 or 11, a lot of other people's kids that are wearing the Malachi Tony jerseys, had the Cam Ward jerseys last year and are becoming Miami fans through this process. And then also there's people that are 32, not old, but not young. They're not spring chickens, and they've never seen Miami really be good. Yeah. And they're getting to experience it. So that to me is cool, to that era of fan to see this.
D-Money, I'm glad you say that because Mac and I are both 32.
I'm glad you did that. Not old. Thank you, brother. That was about to just,
yeah, and not old, not young, it is what it is. But
you're in your prime.
Right, though, because Mac and I have been college football fans since we were kids. I don't really remember Miami being good. Right. The first real national championship I remember, and this is partly because I grew up in Texas, was Texas winning in 2005. That's kind of my first recollection. So you have a whole generation of young millennials that have no clue that Miami, they know, but they haven't seen it. And then you talk about the young generation, these kids that are going to, like you, become diehard Miami fans because they have something to really root for. When Mario Cristobal got this job, I think we all thought, okay, if anyone's going to do it, it's him. But it was still a big if because, like you said, it had been so long. What do you think have been maybe one or two or maybe three keys that Mario Cristobal's done that have differentiated him from the guys that came before, the many guys that came before that were qualified but could not get Miami back to this point?
It's a great question. No one's ever asked me that, actually.
Here we go. Wheels are turning.
So really good question. I'm going to think about it. But I would say one thing that separates Mario not only from the guys that failed before him, but even the guys that succeeded before him, the championship coaches, is his specialty is recruiting offensive linemen and recruiting offensive linemen from out of state. And South Florida, in my opinion, has the best football players in the country. I would say you can make an argument that 4 of the top 5 players in college football, Mendoza, Jeremiah Smith, Malachi Tony, Ruben Bain, if I said those were top 5 players in college football, I don't think people would fight me on that, or, it's a credible statement. They're all from Miami. Right? At least 4 of the top 10. So it shows you how much talent's here, but there's not a lot of EMACs walking around, right? There's just not a lot of offensive lineman talent here
It's too
Some,
hot.
but
You
not a
can't
lot.
gain weight down there. It's too hot.
Right. That's right. That is true. That is true. And a lot of those guys play defensive line. Right. So there's not a lot of offensive line talent in this city. So when your strength as a coach and a recruiter and talent acquirer is Mario Cristobal is going out and getting offensive linemen, well, now you are correcting the biggest weakness and replacing it with a strength. And I think back to July 4th, 2022, this was before Mario's first season, he got a commitment from Francis Mawanoa, who was born on American Samoa. I mean, you could not be further away from Miami, Florida. And getting that commitment, it was just I remember July 4th, I remember it vividly, but that one moment was kind of a statement to say, we're here, we're recruiting the best in the country. We also got Samson Okalola that year, 5-star from Brockton, Massachusetts, who is now playing a really, really good guard for Miami. So that recruiting class was very strong with the offensive line. I'd say that right there, that's one thing that is very much different from all of Miami's coaches, his ability to recruit offensive linemen and fortify our biggest weakness. Receiver, there's going to be receivers. I mean, you had Jeremiah Smith last year. You lost that one, and then you get Malachi Tony the next year. They're the two best receivers in the country. So it's like you're going to get opportunities to get receivers, but you got to win those offensive line battles. So I would say that is number one. Number two, and this is something you'd have in common with the guys that have won championships, is the culture of toughness. It's one thing to talk about. It's one thing to do the press, all that, but you guys know when you turn on the tape, that's what you are. And the way the Miami runs to the football, the way they take hits, the way they deliver hits, I think that is clear evidence that he's installed a culture of toughness that is not just talk and, I'm the old offensive lineman, this is what we believe in. It's on the tape. So I'd say that for sure is a difference between Miami and the prior years. And then I would say number three, and you're seeing this now with this class, is doing a better job of keeping the local guys home. We talked about Malachi Tony a bunch here, Ruben Bain, Mark Fletcher, Armando Blunt, and Wesley Basaint, OJ Frederic. These are Bryce Fitzgerald. These are local guys that are making a huge, huge difference on this team. And you still don't have it exactly where it needs to be. You can't have a Jeremiah Smith leaving town or other guys from Miami winning the Heisman. Like, you got to clean some of that up, but certainly doing a better job than your predecessors in that front.
And I think it's so different for him because he's a player, right? Like, he's a former, national champion, been there, done that for this team. And there's that responsibility that he feels that I think it makes it not impossible to fail, but impossible not to give 110% every single day. Like, he feels that every day that he wakes up, I'm not working hard enough. I have to do this better. I have to give more here. I have to do more there. And he's built for that, right? And he's built a staff that's built for that and understands that. And if you're not, see you later. Like, get out. We'll get somebody else that wants to do it. And I think that is such a clear thing. The more that I'm around him, the more that I see him. And it's a double-edged sword. Like, there's going to be times like when you guys win this thing, I hope I get a little bit of time with him to literally grab him and say, enjoy this moment. Like literally, look what you did. Like, look around and embrace this, because I know he's going to flip it quickly. I know he's going to want to do it again and get ready. And so I hope that he can enjoy that. But I think that is his greatest strength is he literally is addicted to this. Like, it's what he does. Working hard is what he does, and grinding. And I think that's a real strength and a big, big piece of this thing. Looking at this run, man, it has been the most difficult path to get to where you are. It's the most unlikely path as the last at-large bid, for Miami to get in. What has been, I guess, the separator to you? Like, if there's one or two things that you can say, Miami did this better than anybody so far to get to this point, what is that in your estimation?
So I'll answer that, but real quick on what you just said, because you made a great point about him grinding, and I wanted to share this anecdote. The day of his mom's funeral was his first practice at Miami. He had his first spring practice at Miami the day of his mom's funeral, and he said, this is what she would have wanted. That's why I'm doing it. She was the hardest worker I know. I am following in her footsteps, right? So mom was a Cuban immigrant. My family came from Cuba. I'm sure this is not exclusive to Cuban immigrants, but this is just something that I know from being in this community. One defining factor, I would say, is you have a lot of gratitude for being in America, and not being there. And with that comes, you have to work harder than everybody because you're lucky to be here. And I think that is part of what he brings to the program and why he works so hard, because he saw his parents really, really grinding and everybody around him grinding to try to have, a better life than what they left behind. So I think that's a huge factor. And that first practice was a big indicator of what the tone was going to be. When your coach is going to practice the day of his mom's funeral and not saying a word about it, and you're a player and you see that, I have to imagine that makes a pretty big impression on you. But going to the path, I think the thing that's changed, or at least the thing that struck me, is the ability to run the ball, because Miami did not run the ball as well as they wanted to this year during the regular season. They did at times. Notre Dame, Florida, they had their periods of running the ball very well, but it wasn't what you might have thought it would be going into the year. You're seeing that now in the playoffs, where Mark Fletcher is going insane. They're running when they want to run against the very best teams in the country, 3 top 10 teams. So I think that is something that you hope to see during the season. You didn't see it all the time. But again, we go back to what we always talk about, the assumption that if you're a championship level team, which I think Miami is, that you'd run through the ACC and just stomp on these teams with your running game because they're inferior. That was not the case. These ACC teams did a much better job of defending Miami's running game than you're seeing with these top 10 teams in the playoff. And I think that's one thing that really jumps out about this run in particular, is Miami's rediscovered running game.
That anecdote was, first of all, totally agree on the running game, was powerful there, D-Money. And yeah, I think Mario Cristobal, like he's so locked in. He is addicted to it, to your point, Mac. But I do think he has a certain level of, I get to do this, which is a great perspective, especially because of how much Miami means to him. So I just love the attitude. I think it's trickled down in the entire program. Okay, you talk about running the ball. So let's shift a little bit to this game, Miami and Indiana. One team ran through their league no problem, and I wonder what that says about the league. But anyway, I will continue with this game overall. Can you, and D-Money, you're the best at this. You've given us updates throughout this run. Can you give us some injury updates, just what you've been hearing, mainly with a guy like Akeem Mesidor? Mac and I were a little worried about that, but I think you're hearing some good things about his ability to play.
Yeah, I think Mesidor will be good to go. I think O.J. Frederick should be good to go. In terms of questionable guys, you'll see with Damari Brown, Elijah Lofton. You heard Cristobal talk about that at his press conference, the tight end. So we'll see on those guys. That's, again, day-to-day, which aren't we all day-to-day, right? But certainly I think Mesidor and Frederick, you're feeling good about those guys as starters being ready to rock and roll. And I mean, Mesidor's 25, 26 years old. He's been playing football for so long. Now he's in the championship. He always plays hurt. I don't see him missing.
Unless a limb's fallen off, I'm assuming he's playing in that game.
Yeah, and he might use that limb to to hit the other offensive tackle. But yeah, he's not missing this one.
How about Moten? Is Moten doing okay? I know
he
is dealing with that lower body.
He's good.
Did you know Ingles only sells USDA Choice and Prime cuts of meat? Maybe it's time to reward yourself. Our butchers cut all our meat fresh in the store every day. Grass-fed, organic, you name it. Not only that, we'll even cut it to order just the way you like it. And we grind meat fresh in the store multiple times a day. It's all in the bag. That's the best meat in town for the best folks in town. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Yep, won't be fine.
There you go. Well, I'm excited because that was a interesting anecdote. Just because this is hard, right? I mean, we're playing a bunch of freaking football games. A 16th game, for both of these teams is tough, and it's difficult to be able to put that together. I remember my time again in Clemson's first national championship run there in the playoff era. I was tired. Like, I was more tired than I ever had been, just because you're playing an extra game. Now these guys are playing a couple extra games, especially from where I was. It's difficult, and it's difficult to look at. Looking at this matchup, I think it's very similar to everything that you just said about the run game. That has been the secret to success, for Miami, and that's my second key in regards to, can they control the clock, can they control the game, can they establish the run. The first key for me, the most important thing, is you have to affect Fernando Mendoza with that defensive line. Like they have to do what they have done the entire year, but specifically this entire playoff, and get him down. What kind of things are you hearing? What kind of things are you seeing in regards to that plan of attack? Because he's not just a concrete statue back there. I mean, he can use his legs.
No, he's running way better than I expected. I think as he's filled out his frame, and I've watched Mendoza since he was in high school because, again, he's from Miami. I'm going to, you know, pat myself on the back, which I say I don't do that often, but maybe I do. But with Mendoza, when he was in high school, he was committed to Yale. And I remember I posted on Canes Insight, our website, I said, how is this guy not FBS? He's 6'5". He has a good arm. He's committed to Yale. His team didn't throw that much in high school. He actually played at the same high school that Mario Cristobal went to. Bryce Fitzgerald, Miami star defensive back, went to a lot of Alex Mirabal, the offensive line coach for Miami, went to the same high school, Miami Columbus. So, guy we knew very well. But I remember seeing him in high school. I'm like, this guy, like, why is he not getting recruited by Division I FBS schools? Why is he only going to Yale? He was very tall, and he was kind of like a baby giraffe, right? Where his junior year, kind of goofy a little bit. His senior year, I noted this in the write-up I did when he was a senior. I said, he's improving his ability to throw off platform. Now, that was still nothing compared to what it is now. Now he's legitimately, they're calling quarterback power and stuff. Like, he's running. And I think he just got bigger, stronger, coordinated a little bit as a taller guy. He's just kind of coming into his body and working really hard on it. From a Miami standpoint, I agree. You got to get after him. I think to Ohio State, Caden Curry had a lot of success against Indiana's right tackle and just getting to Mendoza. They have a very good offensive line, but I think man on man, Miami's defensive line, better athletes, just more talented than Indiana's offensive line. Great unit for Indiana, but they can be beat. And I think absolutely that's what you have to do. You have to get to him. You have to make him hold the ball a little bit. He's so smart that if he has you pre-snap and he's not thinking, even if you have a good rush, he can still beat you. I don't think their offense is like Ole Miss, where that it's so quick release that even if you smoke their O-line, which Miami did at times to Ole Miss, you're still not getting to him, and he's getting the ball off. Yeah. I think he's going to hold the ball more. 3 seconds so far in the playoffs, he's holding the ball, which is more than Ole Miss. But if he has you dead to rights pre-snap, he can get it out quick. They do so much RPO. So, yeah, I agree with you, Mac. That's going to be huge. Is can Miami win their individual matchups up front and then play with discipline against Mendoza and get him down to the ground?
We've talked so much about, and this has been a storyline throughout the entire playoff, that Indiana has like 8 total 4 and 5 stars. And then you look at Alabama, they had 1 million. Oregon had 1 million. Miami has 1 million. So there's that difference. Now, I found out from our other episode, Mac, and I'm going to correct myself. I thought Malachi Toney was a 5-star. I guess I was completely wrong on that. I assume if your name's Baby Jesus, then you're going to be a 5-star, but he plays like a 5-star. So that's on me. Multiple people have corrected me. But when just speaking from that general theme, like, I feel like your 5 stars, outside of Tony, I guess, need to play like that. Like, you need the explosiveness. You need your freaks to show up, because Indiana doesn't really have those guys. They've got disciplined, incredible football players who are 23, 24 years old. So you need kind of those game changers to show up, whether it's Ruben Bain. I'm going to count Malachi Toney because he plays like it. Whoever else, right? So do you buy that, especially from an offensive perspective? Like, the explosiveness for Miami, I feel like really has to be there in this game.
Certainly, and defensive line in particular, to your point about Justin Scott. He is a 5-star. Marlon Blunt's a 5-star. Marquise Lightfoot is a 5-star. Ruben Bain was not a 5-star because of that arm length, the same thing you're going to hear about in draft season.
This is crazy to me. Continue.
He was a 4-star. He was a highly rated guy.
Like a T-Rex out there. How can he play football? He's got no
That's
arm.
right. Yeah, he had like 30 sacks or something. His production in high school was unheard of. He had 3 sacks against IMG, which included Francis Malinois, and still did not get that 5th star. So that was always kind of a chip on his shoulder deal. But yeah, we have highly rated guys on D-line. I will say Indiana, I think, is more talented than people think.
Sure.
People talk about them as overachievers, and they are to an extent, but Mendoza is going to be a first-round pick. I think all 3 receivers are going to get drafted. That's actually the group I'm most worried about from Miami perspective is their receivers. I think all 3 of those guys can get drafted. That guy Becker, when I first saw him out, it was like, all right, Mendoza's roommate, he'll catch the ball. That guy can go. He's a downfield guy. He's got NFL ability. So they have good players. The left tackle will get drafted pretty high. Linebacker, defensive end, some of their secondary guys. So they have a good team. And on the flip side, Miami's actually probably older than people think. You talk about the Indiana old guys. Carson Beck is old. I think Marion and Daniels are both 23. Mo Toure is from the class of 2019. So he's been around a minute. Messidor is also, I think, around that age. So Jacoby Thomas is a little
Scott
older.
Like a 6th or 7th year dude?
Yeah, Keontae Scott's old. We got some old guys too now. So Really, I think it's two good football teams. But yes, in terms of the talent advantage that Miami needs to really exploit, I think it's Miami's defensive line against Indiana is very good, but not necessarily first round late in offensive line.
Yeah, no, I think they are talented. I think they work well together. They're extremely efficient. It's that's gonna be a challenge. I think that's the best offensive line they've played in this playoff, to date. What we'll see in the Natty, and what can you do against them? What can you kind of solidify yourself? Can Mesidor lock up a late first round pick by having a huge game here and just have all that tape against these great teams? I'm excited to see it. I'm interested what you said there about the receivers and the DBs. Like, what are you hearing? What's the plan? What's the best way to attack? Because they're good and they get that ball out very efficiently.
Yeah, I think it starts with the quarterback. You just got to get him uncomfortable, get him down, change the picture on him so he's not so confident before. Because if he knows exactly where he's going before the snap, his placement is so good with those back shoulders and stuff like that, and they are so good on the other side catching those balls that it's hard to stop. I mean, how do you stop a perfect back shoulder
You
throw
can't.
that's delivered like
You
he's
can't.
been throwing it?
PI is the only way to do it.
Right. It's right. So I think, getting to him and then also just letting him hold it for an extra second as opposed to, hey, I know exactly what I'm going to see here. I'm going to execute the throw and you can't stop it. So that's the big thing there. On the other side with the receivers and the defensive backs, I think it's an interesting matchup because Indiana's corners are actually both from Miami. These are guys I've seen since high school. Sharp, number 22. I believe he graduated from Northwestern. It's hard to keep track because these guys change schools a lot, but didn't graduated from Miami Northwestern, same school as like Teddy Bridgewater, Amari Cooper, some of those guys. D'Angelo Pons went to Chaminade, which is the same school as Jeremiah Smith, CJ Bailey at NC State. These guys were all teammates. JoJo Trader, who's on the Miami Hurricanes. So these are guys that Miami, some of these players are familiar with. And I think from the Miami receiver versus their defensive back standpoint, you have grown men with CJ Daniels and Marion, guys that are older, guys that have really worked on their bodies. They're strong. Malachi Tony, even though he's so young, he's a lead blocker on some of these run plays. He's one of the most physical defensive wide receivers in the country, pound for pound. So I think you do have a little bit of advantage. You're not going to outrun those guys because Indiana, again, this is how their talent's a little underrated. Both of their corners run 4.3. Like these guys are track guys down here. They run like 4.3, 4.4. They can run all day. You're not going to run by these guys, but they're a little smaller and not as strong. So I think that maybe is an advantage you have when it comes to your receivers against their defensive backs.
Yeah, use that size. Okay, you mentioned all the people involved in this game that are from Miami. D-Money, you're down there in Miami. You are our boots on the ground. Mac and I were talking about the ticket prices here and just the insanity with this game. Do we expect, what do we think this crowd's going to be? Because Indiana apparently has the most living alumni ever or something. Mac and I were talking about this.
How many
That's a
dead alumni?
massive
That's
school.
the interesting question.
Yeah, which school has the most non-living alumni? That's what I wonder. But so what are we feeling crowd-wise and just the vibe we're going to get in Hard Rock Stadium?
I think it'll probably be pretty close to 50-50.
Think so?
Yeah, I got my tickets early. I remember last time because I don't go with the press. I usually go with my family. I saw Mac last time because I was like third row or something. So I saw Mac.
I'm like, dang, this dude's high roller, man. He's got all the money over here.
This time I'm sitting like I'll be able to have coach's tape with my camera. The all 22 with my camera because I'm way up top. So yeah, it's a hard ticket to get. Everybody's hitting me up. I do not have tickets. I wish I did. I wish I could help everybody.
Leave him alone.
Sure, you guys are used to all this probably from some of these Clemson runs. But yeah, I think there's a lot of demand for tickets from Miami fans. There's a lot of ticket from Indiana fans. The allotment's equal. Who's going to be able to pay more? I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's hard to buy I know Indiana's got a lot of rich alumni. It's hard to buy an expensive ticket and then fly and stay here and do the whole thing. So at least with Miami fans, you're going deep into your pocket for the tickets, but you're not flying and staying somewhere. So I think ultimately it'll be maybe 55-45 Miami, something like that. Mm-hmm. But Indiana, you saw that game against Oregon. That was a home game for Indiana. But the interest is high in Miami. I mean, this is people waiting a long time for this. This is not like, oh, hey, hope the Canes win. Let's go to the beach. Like people are pretty fired up about this thing.
No question. No question. I'm excited to see it. I want to jump into the portal a little bit here and talk about that. But before we do, talk about a guy you got from the portal last year in Carson Beck and just the stigma about him coming in, how he has destroyed that. And I think back to being a top 2 round quarterback, especially with the class that's coming out here. what you've seen from him and kind of the maybe not quite the exclamation point, but a nice exclamation point on his career with, scoring the game-sealing, game-winning touchdown last week and that drive that he put together. So just from your perspective, man, what has been the, Carson Beck experience?
It's been awesome, and you guys did a great job talking about it with the Mac and Murray show. Just, because obviously with Aaron having that long relationship with Beck, but and of course, you guys on the network have had interviews with him as well. Be able to see his personality a little bit. I just I think that the intangible part was very misrepresented coming in, at least from what we've seen, because he is fit in with the locker room, no problem. And he's a Florida guy, so maybe some of that is just he fits in better here. I don't know what happened up there, but he's older too. He's 23. I thought that would be the biggest hurdle is like he has different references than a Malachi Tony. I mean, he's like way older than him, right? So, but they're like buddy from the beginning. You've seen all their million handshakes. You see when Carson Beck does an interview with the press after the game. Keelan Marion walks up and says, "Stop sleeping on my boy. He's the best." Mark Fletcher's like, "There's the GOAT right there." Tony walks up. You're like, that's real. That's not for the cameras. That's not anything else other than they actually really like this guy. He likes them. And the narrative about him not being able to, he killed a lot of the narratives, but then the last kind of lingering one was, if you need Carson Beck to win it for you, he can't do it. How many times did you guys hear that?
Oh, yeah.
Right, over the past couple weeks? And of course, that's exactly what he did. There's no question that he was the one that won it for Miami there at the end with the big throws to Keelan Marion. That dig was just an unbelievable throw and decision and then running it in. So he's shown that toughness, no question there. Ability to read a defense, no question there. Some of those throws, he showed off his arm. I think maybe the deep ball is something maybe if you're Indiana, you could challenge. But I like this matchup for Miami when it comes to that because you're not going to run by Indiana with their speed, but maybe you can win some of those contested catches down the field. We'll see how that plays out. But I think he's answered pretty much all the questions. Now it's just, does he have one more in him to get that sixth national championship and go from a Miami great to a Miami legend, which is what happens when you win a championship.
Absolutely. I think he has answered every question. I agree. And you guys got him in the portal. So let's preview the portal here because Mac was joking on our previous episode, but he's so right that Cristobal's going to win the Natty if Miami does, and he's going to think, dang, we missed all this time in the portal, all this time recruiting. And of course, the bigger issue that the calendar in college football is ridiculously stupid. But anyway, what are we thinking portal-wise for Miami right now? Are they able to do some of that while also preparing for the national championship? And of course, the big question is quarterback going into next year.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's retention. So start with the retention part of it. That's a big aspect of this. And they want to retain a lot of these guys because it's a championship team. And although there are a lot of veterans, some of these guys are young, playing a big role. So I think the retention has gone very well. Obviously, it's a championship team. There's good vibes. They are going to prioritize the people that helped them get there that they believe in. So I think that part of it has gone well because they're all along for the ride. They're not getting calls from other schools, right? They're here focused on trying to win a championship. So I think that part's ahead of schedule, let's say. The acquisition part, you are behind just because of the nature of the calendar. I think everybody would take that trade-off, but it's a reality.
Rollback just dropped their licensed game day collection. Polos, hoodies, Q-zips, custom designed for your school. On game days, we wear Rollback, period.
You've added 2 receivers already. Cam Vaughn from West Virginia, who was the best receiver on West Virginia. Vandrevius Jacobs from South Carolina, who might have been the best receiver on South Carolina. 2 4-star portal transfers, guys you feel really, really good about. If you think back to that Clemson game, which I know you guys probably watched, Jacobs is the one that went over the top, and then he landed, and no one could tell that he had the ball, and then he ran like 40 yards. It was like a pretty spectacular play. That was him. So he's a good player. So they're good at receiver. Defensive line, they just added a young guy, Jarquez Carter, yesterday to add some more youthful talent there from Ohio State. And they've made various additions. Omar Thornton, who you guys might know from Boston College, really, really hard hitter, really good player for BC this year. He was added to the secondary. So they've made additions, and they've had guys on visits. But yes, a lot of meat left on the bone. I think it's going to be a smaller portal class than you've seen in the past because you're shifting more to like how Ohio State does it, or Oregon, those teams that have recruited well for a while, Georgia, where they'll get portal guys, but they'll be really like star players like Caleb Downs, Dylan Thieneman, guys like that. And then the majority of their team is going to be homegrown.
Right.
So they'll use the portal still, but it's going to be more impact than like, hey, we got a lot of holes we got to fill. So I don't expect the volume to be what it's been the past few years, but certainly it's a huge priority. And Miami would love to sell a national championship to whoever the next quarterback is, the next defensive end is. I think those two positions are the two that you would keep an eye on because you lose a Ruben Bain and Messidor, you lose a Carson Beck. Those are the most important positions around. So that would be where I'd keep my focus as far as the big money acquisitions.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I'm glad you brought it up at the end there because I think that's, obviously we're very locked into the game. I mean, everybody's excited, but there is kind of the like we're looking to the side like, hey, who's next? Is he on the roster, or are we going to get him? Because this quarterback transfer class is relatively wrapped up. I mean, everybody, the last domino kind of fell, yesterday with Levitt going to LSU there. I guess I don't know if he's signed, but committing there. What are your thoughts? Like, is Ty Simpson a real thing? Is it a possibility? I mean, he's getting first round buzz. Is there someone else that I'm overlooking, or is there a guy on the roster that we feel good about next year?
Ty Simpson is definitely a target and would be a big one. You look at the last couple of years, you basically beat out the draft for your quarterback with Cam Ward entering and then signing, Carson Beck entering and signing. With Simpson, I think the football wise, the fit is phenomenal. And personality wise, I think he'd be fine. The question is doesn't really have ties to Miami. So is he going to say, hey, I'm going to Miami and leaving the NFL, maybe another SEC team or something like that? I have to see it because it's a different look for him. He's from Tennessee. He played Alabama. He was talking about how the SEC should have 13 teams or whatever it is in the tournament, or 12 teams in the tournament. Like he's an SEC guy. So, Carson Beck played in the SEC, but he's from Florida. His girlfriend was here. It was a little different. So that's the thing with Ty that I want to see. But in terms of the player, outstanding, and the fit, I think would be great football wise. Miami's always flown close to the sun with these quarterback portal guys. Cam Ward was really late in the process. I remember he committed and then I think it was the last day, and then he was on campus the next day and it was already kind of going to classes. It was like really, really fast and really late. Carson Beck also later in the process. Mateer and some of these other guys, Mendoza had already signed elsewhere. So we'll see. This is what they've done the last 2 years. It's worked out incredibly the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Had a lot of heartburn along the way. We'll see, but certainly not a bad place to be sweating about that, getting ready for a national championship.
No question. No question. So we'll see. Time will tell. D-Money, it's great to see you. Thank you for your time. Excited to see you in a couple days, man. I guess I'll have to peer up high. I'll get some binoculars, try to find you. But excited for this run, man. Super excited for you.
Fired up. And again, thank you guys for having me on. Canes Nation loves you guys, and keep doing what you're doing.